carbohydrate intolerance and calorie sensitive. When it comes to weight loss, there are two metabolic types. Those are it. What are the differences?
Well, those are the two main ones. There are several subcategories below those, but the two main ones are calorie sensitivity and carbohydrate intolerance. For decades, many decades, the American Dietetic Association said the only way to lose weight is to cut calories.
Yeah. And some still believe that.
Oh, many of them still believe that.
You still see it all over social media.
Many of them still believe
it. I even see people ridiculing people that discuss, let's say there's an influencer and they're getting all this great benefit from fasting. And the comments say, all you're doing is calorie restriction. If you would have just done that from the beginning, you would have the same effect. And the people are going like, no, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works at all.
Okay.
And we should discuss fasting in a bit, because that's a very timely subject. But essentially, dietitians used to say everyone is consuming excess calories versus expenditure. That's why you store weight.
Yeah.
Because you're eating more, you're taking more calories in than you're burning.
Yeah.
Well, theoretically, that's true. However, not all individuals have the same metabolism. Let's say, for example, that you are insulin resistant, hypoglycemic, type 2 diabetic. Your problem is with carbohydrates, especially refined ones.
Those three
specifically.
Yeah.
There are millions and millions of people who are insulin resistant.
Yeah.
And they're not diabetic yet.
Yeah.
And those people will get greater benefit from restricting carbohydrate intake.
Yeah.
As opposed to calorie restriction. Because you can eat 1,200 calories a day. If it's all white bread and sugar, you're in trouble.
Kiss of death, yeah.
Well, if you're carbohydrate intolerant, because your insulin resistance is going to continue to rise to the point where you damage your receptor site cells, and then you're going to wake up one day with elevated blood sugar.
Yeah. And you have a self-test that you can take on your website at Healthy Information. The website is healthyinformation.com, and there's a self-test where you can find out if you're carbohydrate intolerant or calorie sensitive. And you can actually score yourself on it. How long did it take you to come up with that test? 20 years?
Yeah, we've been adding and detracting from it for about 20 years. It all started when I was in the 1970s, when I was into bodybuilding and powerlifting. And for competitive, I never competed more than 3 or 4 times. I did it for health reasons.
Yeah.
But I routinely trained with people who were in high levels of competition. And like many sports, you have to be at a certain body weight.
Yeah.
You have to have, especially for bodybuilders, you have to have a certain percentage of body fat. And it's usually quite low.
So that's where you got to really cut carbs.
That's where you really got to cut carbs. You really have. So what we learned was that some of these guys could go on a low carb diet and drop weight, and a ton of weight in a month. Others struggled. It took much longer. And when we started looking at their metabolic profile, we found that those guys that didn't respond as quickly were more insulin resistant.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it was a harder time for them. So this was the evolution of thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, if someone is insulin resistant, then they need to be on a restricted carbohydrate diet more or less all the time.
Yeah.
If they're going to keep their insulin levels under control.
Yeah, I mean, but you still have your cheat day or
Well, yeah, there's all.
if
all,
you can
all
get
those
down
things.
to your perfect weight, you could have multiple cheat days. then.
Absolutely. So, in essence, if you take our test and you find out that you're more carbohydrate intolerant than calorie sensitive, then we would put you on a carbohydrate restricted diet and
For a limited time.
for a limited time, and then show you how to add carbs back in safely. If you scored more on the calorie sensitive side, then we would at that point put you on a calorie restricted program.
Okay, so what is the main reason that people fail on their weight loss journey?
Well, we've isolated at least 10 major reasons why people fail. The number one reason is they're following the wrong diet for their metabolism.
So they should.
They're in fact carbohydrate intolerant, but they've gone to some dietitian who's screaming in their ear about calories, and they go on a 1,400 calorie diet, and then they stop losing weight, and then they go on a 1,200 calorie diet, and eventually they stop losing weight, and then they go on an 800 calorie diet, and now they're starving to death, and they still plateau.
And now they're never gonna
lose weight
because it's never gonna get the metabolism
right. Their metabolism is going to go into hibernation.
So that what are some of the basic indicators found in carb intolerance and calorie sensitive besides the one you already talked about?
Well, if I look at somebody, and it's only because I've been doing this for 40 years, but if I look at somebody in a restaurant, at an airport, somewhere, and they're overweight,
Yeah.
I can usually tell in a very short observation whether they're calorie sensitive or carbohydrate intolerant.
Oh yeah, and this is so interesting to me. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So a person who's calorie sensitive and overweight will not be excessively overweight, 25, 30 pounds. They'll carry the majority of their weight around their midsection. So that means they'll have, normal legs and arms, and the fat is visceral and it's around the midsection.
Yeah.
And likely that person has plateaued, so they're not going to gain very much more weight. They're just going to be there.
Yeah.
If I see somebody who's carrying loose, flabby, jiggly fat from head to toe, they got a fat neck, they got fat arms, they got fat wrists, they got fat legs, they got fat ankles. Their ankles are fat. They're enormous in their midsection.
Or the
arms are all flabby,
Yeah.
and then that person is very likely carbohydrate intolerant, because when starches convert to sugar,
Yeah.
and the sugar enters the bloodstream, as the sugar rises, the body panics because that's not a very good state to be in. Then the body converts that blood sugar to something called triglycerides. Triglycerides are stored in fat cells throughout the body. When the body converts sugars into triglycerides, it adds one molecule of water. Which is why people who have excessive weight due to carbohydrate intolerance and insulin resistance have loose, flabby fat from head to toe.
Got it.
And that's how there are many others, but you can learn more about that from our tests, because those kind of questions you'll be asked during that evaluation.
Oh, that question is on the test?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So why is carbohydrate intolerance such an epidemic in America? And I know we're slowly spreading that epidemic around the world because people are adopting the American diet. But why do you think it's gotten so out of hand in America, where they're saying, because what you're kind of describing is even the kids these days.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the kids have the fat, jiggly arm already,
Yeah.
and they're like 14, 15 years old.
And they're insulin resistant like hell. It's just terrible.
And so why has it become such an epidemic? Just because our diet is just, that's what it's
Our
turned
diet
into?
is primarily refined carbs,
Yeah.
especially for young kids.
Well,
They want to go to fast food, junk food,
Yeah.
all that, and everything they eat has got white flour on it.
Yeah.
Or in it, or sugar, or both.
Well, you know what a good experiment is to do is don't eat any fast food for 2 months, and then go get a hamburger at any fast food place you want, and you realize it kind of tastes so sweet.
Yeah.
Like the whole hamburger is sweet, but it's just really the bun, probably.
Yeah.
But
because it's made with such refined carbohydrates that they're one molecule away from sugar at that point.
Wow.
And
well, that's the answer. Then.
And to add insult to injury, refined carbohydrates are addictive.
Yeah.
Because when you consume them and your blood sugar rises, eventually the body says, oh no, and then it drops the blood sugar down. And when your blood sugar drops down, then you feel tired,
depressed,
you don't have any energy, you feel moody, and all of that. And so the first thing you do is you run for a candy bar or another sandwich made with white bread.
Yeah, because you need another hit.
That's right.
Like a drug addict.
That's right.